Much for talking to Republic, and I'm glad that I'm getting a chance to talk to you today purely for the reason that since the time I saw the trailer and within literally seconds into it, I couldn't believe like it's you. I literally went on to believing like I'm watching Sanjay Dutt, and from that very time I watched it like a couple of times after that. And I've been wanting to ask you, how did you pull it off? Like, what went into it, and how much was your input? How much was Raju Hirani's input in this?
Well, thank you. That's really incredible that you feel this way. Yeah, Sanju sir or Sanju, the film is quite rare. It comes once in a lifetime in every actor's life. I mean, you get a part like this, trying to portray Sanjay Dutt on screen, a Rajkumar Hirani film. There is a sense of a responsibility that you feel. Thankfully, we had a good 6 to 8 months of prep. We had amazing people, the crew who was working in makeup and prosthetics and hair and costuming, and we had a lot of dedicated time towards it. So I don't know how it happened. It's just that everybody just wanted to get it right. There was a lot of disappointments. There were a lot of times I used to sit in a chair for 10 hours and then look at myself in the mirror or the camera, and it was a complete disaster. I was looking like my father sometimes. I was looking like some other actor sometimes. But because Sanju sir is such an iconic person, he's somebody who's still so relevant, who's still so popular and loved, we had to kind of get the look real close to him. It's not exactly like him, it is close to him. And at the same time, it should not seem like it's a mockery or we're trying to mimic him. So the responsibility was high. The belief level inside was really high. It was like you were mentioning some time back, it's an important film for me at a very important juncture in my life. So we all did the best to our capabilities.
And how did you go about shooting the film? Because obviously, I mean, your weight has gone up and down. There's been a transformation in terms of your looks. So how did you go about shooting this?
When I started this film, I had just finished Jagga Jasoos and I was 70 kgs. So I had to go all the way up to 88 kgs or 89 kgs. So I took a good 4-5 months. I trained a lot, I ate a lot. And Raju sir and me devised the schedule of this film in such a way that we started with the old and we went backwards, and we should take a 1.5 month break between each look. So I had that time to lose weight and kind of prep for the other part. So it felt like I was doing 6 different characters. His life is like the tagline says, one man, many lives. It's not really one character. It's like 6 different characters, 6 facets of this man's life.
Now that the response to the trailer has been so good, and obviously you said that you had also gone through your share of doubts while you were shooting this film of whether you're getting it right or not, is there a sense of relief that okay, chalo, first step achieved?
Yeah, I think this first step or this big step of people accepting me as Sanjay Dutt, I think that was something I was really skeptical about. I myself did not believe or did not have that much of faith. So I'm really happy that the audience have accepted me in whatever way they have. So now when they see this film, they will discover the story of the film. They won't be distracted by, oh, this is some other actor playing Sanjay Dutt, or he's looking like Ranbir here, he's looking like Sanjay Dutt here. And I think that first step was very important. But they haven't seen the movie yet, and that's the big deal. That's the big picture. And once they come and discover his life through this film, which we have very responsibly and respectfully and in a very dignified way try to represent it. So I hope that they really connect with the film itself.
You personally come across as a very docile, polite person. That's how your mother always projects you, that you're very shy. And obviously you're playing this character which is very wild, has that crazy wild streak. Now needless to say, you're a fabulous actor, and be it in any film that you've done, whether it's done well or it's not done well, you have performed extremely well. But when you were playing this character, and you've obviously known Sanjay Dutt on a personal level, the Dutts and the Kapoors go way back, how did you draw from, like, where did you draw your influences from probably personal wild streaks that you've had in your own life, or you've known Sanjay Dutt that well?
My life is not even a percentage of what his life has been. I'm 35 today and I'm talking about him from 20. So yes, I've had the good privilege to know Sanjay Dutt from a very young age. But when I read the script, I discovered a very different Sanjay Dutt. It was a Sanjay Dutt which was very human. He was not your larger than life alpha male that we have that perception of. It wasn't the Sanjay Dutt that you saw him at the movies. It was the Sanjay Dutt that you saw behind the movies, and what he was, dealing with drugs, coming out of it, dealing with his mother's death, his time in jail, his involvement with the underworld, with the AK-56 gun, his father's death. His life has been really a roller coaster which is only going up and down, up and down. So it wasn't good enough just for me to kind of take it from my life. I really had to understand this person's heart and soul. I remember I used to call Sanjay Dutt late at night before every big sequence I was doing, if it was the jail time or it was his drug phase, because I really wanted to know what was going on in his head, because I wanted to represent him with a lot of respect and truth. When he sees the film, I don't want him to feel, it's done very superficially. He should feel like, I remember this. He should feel nostalgia when he sees it. And he was very open. He's been so brave in giving his life. This film is not a propaganda film. This film is not a PR exercise for Sanjay Dutt. Sanjay Dutt has given his life in a way that is very shamelessly honest. You will see him as a grey character. You see him as a man who's made mistakes, foolish mistakes. A man who's probably let his father down and who's fallen down, but he's also risen. And he wants you to learn from his mistakes. He wants you to learn from what drugs, how they destroy your life, where it takes you, and how hard it is to come back. The mistakes he made with bad company, wrong company. So all of it had so much, and in this, the material was so rich that it was an actor's wet dream. Like this is what movies are. This is what acting chops are.
You said it's not a propaganda film, it's not a PR exercise for Sanjay Dutt, but obviously, while everybody in the industry is so fond of him, there are also a set of people who obviously don't think like that about him and do judge him for whatever came out and what they think of him. Did these thoughts ever cross your mind on the fact that, there could be voices, you might have to face backlash, if any?
Of course, and when you have a director like Rajkumar Hirani, who's very sensitive towards these things, he's not somebody who owes Sanjay Dutt something, that he has to make something to change the perception what Mr. Sanjay Dutt has. He just saw a wonderful human story in it, and that's the reason he decided to make it. But even the Sanjay Dutt I know, or the things I've read about him over the years, whatever the media has reported, I know the truth to it. And this is the representation of that truth.
You're sure of that?
Yes, otherwise, I don't think anybody on this film would like to be associated with it. It's not a lie. And we believe that.
Did you also have a discussion with your family when you were accepting this film, considering the family?
I don't usually discuss too much of my work with my family. They leave that onus on me. It's completely my choice. But yes, when my father heard that Rajkumar Hirani was making a film on Sanjay Dutt, he was quite thrilled. He was like, wow, that's very exciting, because his life is very exciting. My dadi was a little skeptical, because she comes from an era which they're not used to biopics. So she was wondering, why are you doing a biopic of an actor who's already living and popular? You should do hero type roles and sing songs and look good and all. My mother, on the other hand, I always share my scripts with, not to color my opinion, but just to have an opinion, because she has a good sense, and she always tells me honestly, and she loved the story. She had a little issue with how the film ended, and she voiced it to Raju sir, and Raju sir was so gracious to accept it and change the entire climax of the film. So in that sense, my family has given me a lot of confidence in approaching this this daunting part.
Ranbir, how have the last 2-3 years really been in terms of Ae Dil Hai Mushkil did well, and you were really looking for that at that point. Jaga Jasoos didn't fare the way you had exactly expected it to be. And through the course that you've been shooting for this character, how have you been in your personal space, and how has this entire, all of this affected you?
Thankfully, I've been quite detached from failure and its success from a very young age. Even my first film was a huge disaster. But I've always had good faith by the film industry, a lot of opportunities, a lot of good filmmakers. A lot of people say that probably this is the worst phase I've gone through in my career so far, but I'm working with the best director of Indian cinema, Mr. Rajkumar Hirani. So there's no failure, there's always a learning. Thankfully, when Jaga Jasoos released and it didn't get the reception that we wanted, and it's a film that we worked really hard for 3 years, but it didn't come together. But I was already immersed in Sanju that time. I had already surrendered to this part. So life was taking me on another journey. I was already inspired doing something else. Of course, you feel bad when your film doesn't do well. You feel very good when your film does well. But usually when a film is a success, your basic reaction is, phew, bach gaye. Now on to the next. And a film doesn't do well, then you're like, again, start from afresh, start anew. It's the beginning again. But I'm really happy with everything, the way my life is shaped up. Every film of mine I'm proud of. I don't regret anything. Successes or failures, they all are a part of me. I always say I'm a combination of all my successes and failures, the characters I've played, the women I've dated, the books I've read, the life I've lived. I'm an amalgamation of all of that. So I can't really deny any failure of mine. I'm very proud of it.
Now you're shooting for Brahmastra, and we keep seeing pictures of you, Alia, and Mr. Bachchan, and of course, like they're like three powerhouses of acting coming in the same frame. So obviously, we're waiting for it. Apart from that, there's Shamshera, and then you've also signed a film with Love Ranjan. Like, what was it, and what is the script typically about? Is it the same of what we've seen of his work?
Well, it was an exciting time for me because I've also now signed on 2 films with 2 young filmmakers who I have not worked with before. I was usually working with the same filmmakers, Imtiaz, Basu, and Ayan. So it's a refreshing change for me. To be honest, I haven't really signed a film for 4 years because Ayan's film was going on since that long, and Mr. Raju sir also spoke to me long back. But these were scripts that I immediately connected with. Shamshera is a wonderful action, adventure, thriller set in the 1800s. It's about a Daku tribe and their fight for justice from the Britishers of getting what they deserve back. On the other hand, Love Ranjan's film, which has Ajay sir, Mr. Ajay Devan and myself, is also a little bit of a departure from what he's done. It's a dramatic love story, and when I heard it, I immediately loved it. It was something I connected with. So I'm very excited. This phase of my career, the next 3 films, 4 films that I'm embarking on this journey is very important because it's also going to consolidate my fan base. It's going to, I'm bored doing the man-child roles, the coming of age roles that I've often played a lot in my life. The lover boy, chocolate boy, and all, whatever you say. So exciting time, and I hope I can do justice to all of these characters.
One question I wanted to ask you. In person, you're shy. When you're performing a character, you're out there and you give it your best, and you're like, you really rip it apart. Being a person who's in the public space as a public personality, and you see your co-actors sometimes voicing on opinions or having opinions or voicing on issues that need to be spoken about. Although it's really just restricted to social media, because many a times when it actually comes to talking on real issues, they go silent. Even when the whole casting couch story came about and you were at a news conference for this film, and you laughed it off and it was again played about, what were you really thinking? And when it comes to issues like this, what are your thoughts? Do you feel like speaking up on these issues? Do you think that your co-actors who are holding placards, putting out hashtags, need to really have a more definite stand? What are your thoughts?
No, I feel like, first of all, this industry, the film industry, is an amazing place. Some people have the stardom and the power to reach out to a large number of people, and they do their bit, for society if they feel for something. In life, I always believe that you have to feel for something. You may be at a press conference and you may be asked about a question that you probably don't know enough about. But
Were you caught off guard?
Well, I wasn't caught off guard, but I think there was a snide remark by somebody on the platform that I was sitting, and I had reacted to that, and it was misconstrued. But I'm an industry kid. I have been part of this industry. My family has been since the last 90 years. So I know all the evils, I know all the goodness that happens out here, and I don't wish the evil upon anybody. So when there is an issue of casting couch, I understand the gravitas, I understand the evilness of it, and all I can say is that I shun it, and I'm ashamed that it happens in my industry. But just giving that statement of what I'm trying to say is not going to change it. So sometimes you say one thing and it's really misconstrued, and it's made into a large media circus misunderstanding by few media persons, who are mischievous, not everybody. And I think social media is something which I have stayed away from. But a lot of actors who are on social media, I think they use it quite well, to
Not selectively?
I don't know, I don't know what people are doing on social media, but whatever little I hear or I read or people tell me, I guess they do their bit. If they feel for something, you have to do it. If you don't, then it just seems fake and artificial.
And you don't ever feel like raising your voice strongly for issues that you feel for?
Well, I do. I have involved myself in certain things like, say, the Mijwan Welfare Society, which works for the girl child, and in any opportunities I have, I'm deeply associated with the Magic Bus Association. But you do your bit, for society, and there is a side where you need publicity for it, so it reaches out, not because you need it for yourself, but it reaches out to a larger number of people that, okay, there is something like this who's doing good, and sometimes you do it quietly because it's meant to be done that way. But I think everybody does their bit here. If you have the money, if you have the time, if you have the power, the position,
which you do,
which I do, it's my duty, to give back to society and not just to myself and my savings accounts.
And lastly, Ranbir, before we let you go, you have spoken about your relationship with Alia, but we understand that you're not willing to talk too much at this time, and fairly respecting that. Why this is particularly intriguing is because both of you are so talented, such powerhouses of acting, as I said earlier also, and just the fact that this whole exchange of learnings, acting, energies, is it a really good influence that you cherish?
Absolutely. Alia is she's a force. When I've worked with her in Brahmastra, and whatever scenes I've done with her, her beats, her rhythm, her discipline is something which it's quite astonishing, and it kind of rubs on to you. It's contagious. Her talent is contagious, and like you mentioned earlier, I was doing a scene with Mr. Amitabh Bachchan and Alia Bhatt. Two different schools of actors, two different generations of actors, and I was just sitting there and I was just looking at both of them act and talk, and it was surreal, because there is this fine line between real and real. And both of them have blended that very beautifully, because when they're doing the shot, they're speaking their lines, and when there is a cut, they're talking about like Donald Duck or about Donald Trump, and they're pretty much the same. There is no, they're not putting on a different personality. They're reflecting themselves on, on screen, and that's quite a joy, and that's quite amazing for me. So I'm really happy to have this creative partnership and this energy with both these wonderful actors.
And you do understand that we literally want to see you on screen for the next 20, 30, 40 years.
I hope I last. I hope I last.
I'm sure you will, with the kind of talent you have. And we expect a great body of work, this just being one of them. So wish you all the very best.
Thank you so
and
much.
I am sincerely waiting to watch this film once it releases. So all the very best, and thank you for talking.
Thank you, very kind. Thank you.